And we're back on Deb's True Crime Notebook. We'll reread the documents for you so you don't have to. And we have documents. It's true, just when you thought it was safe, Richard Allen's attorneys are trying to bring back Odinism/Norse paganism. Let's see what they have to say. The accused's second motion to admit evidence of Odinism, paganism's ritualistic killing, and also motion to admit evidence concerning Elvis Fields and Brad Holder as third-party suspects. Comes now the accused Richard Allen by and through counsel and moves this court to admit certain evidence that this court thus far has prevented the defense from presenting to the jury, pursuant to its September 4th, 2024 order granting the state of Indiana's April 29th, 2024 motion in limina in support of said motion. The defense states the following. 1. On October 23, 2024, the defense has previously filed its first motion to admit evidence of Odinism, Norse paganism, ritualistic killing. 2. Since the motion was filed, additional evidence has been elicited through testimony and other evidence that further open the door to admission of Odinism/Norse paganism/ritualistic killing. 3. Also, since that October 23, 2024 motion was filed, additional evidence has been elicited through testimony and other evidence that opened the door for the defense to bring in evidence that third-party suspects, Elvis Fields and Brad Holder, were involved in the killing of the victims. Additional evidence admitted during trial that supports introduction of Odinism, Norse paganism, ritualistic killing evidence. 4. On Wednesday, October 23rd, forensic pathologist Core testified, A. Possibly 2, possibly 3, possibly 4 instruments were used to cut the necks of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. B. That in his autopsy report, Dr. Core believed that some cuts may have included or involved the use of serrated instruments, and other cuts may have involved the use of non-serrated instruments, providing the possibility that more than one person was involved in the murders. C. During his testimony, Dr. Core backtracked somewhat, but still did not exclude the possibility that the injuries to Abigail Williams and Liberty Williams were caused by both a serrated and non-serrated instrument. 5. Also, since the trial began, the prosecution admitted certain crime scene photographs into evidence, including photographs of the crime scene in which the sticks on the girls were clearly visible to the jury, allowing the defense to ask questions concerning the sticks on the girls. 6. Any competent trial lawyer would ask a variety of questions concerning the unusual way that the sticks were placed on the victims, and it would be ineffective for the trial lawyer to not ask questions concerning the sticks placed on the victims. 7. On Saturday, October 25, 2024, Lieutenant Jerry Holman from the Indiana State Police testified to the following. A. On cross-examination, Lieutenant Holman testified that it was his belief that the sticks branches found on the girls were used by the killer to conceal the bodies. B. On redirect, Prosecutor McClellan asked Lieutenant Holman if another reason that the sticks branches were found on the girls was something called an undoing. Lieutenant Holman responded yes. 8. Through Dr. Core's testimony, it was determined that it is feasible that multiple people using multiple knives supporting the defense theory that Norse paganism Odinists were involved in the murders. 9. As Dr. Perlmutter testified to on August 1st, 2024, knives are a classic sign of Odinist/Norse paganism culture, and that knives are classically used in the ritualistic killings. 10. Dr. Core's testimony revealed that perhaps as many as 4 knives were used, and at least one of those knives may have been serrated, supporting the defense's belief that multiple Norse paganists/Odinists using multiple knives were involved in the murders. 11. Furthermore, upon viewing the crime scene photographs that have been admitted into evidence, there are no obvious drag marks to the naked eye, nor were there any police reports or charts that showed drag marks at the crime scene. Even blood spatter expert Pat Cicero admitted that he could observe no drag marks on the crime scene photographs that he reviewed. 12. The fact that there is no evidence of drag marks support that more than one person was involved in the murders, including 2 or more people needed to lift Liberty German's body, explaining why there were no drag marks, from where she was killed to where she was ultimately found, supporting the possibility that multiple Norse paganists/Odinists were present and participating in the murders. 13. As it relates to Lieutenant Holman's testimony, when Lieutenant Holman answered yes when asked if any theories of why the sticks were on the bodies was because of something called an undoing, his testimony is yet another reason provided by the state of Indiana as to why the sticks are on the girls. 14. The questioning of the prosecution and the answer of Lieutenant Holman pertain to yet another explanation, an undoing, as to why the sticks were found on the girls, and therefore the prosecution opened the door to the defense's alternative theory as to why the sticks were found on the girls. 15. The defense has its own theory as to why the sticks are on the girls, and Richard Allen has a Sixth Amendment right to provide that theory to rebut the state of Indiana's theories, including the prosecution's latest theory that the sticks are related to an undoing. 16. Additionally, blood spatter expert Pat Cicero opened or the prosecution led the jury to believe through questioning that Liberty German was moved to her final resting place to conceal the body. 17. The prosecution's line of questioning of Pat Cicero was pursued by the prosecution on direct examination and opened the door to the defense offering alternative theories as to why the body was placed in its final resting place and why the sticks were placed on the girls. The defense theory is that Liberty German's and Abigail Williams' final resting place was related to Norse paganism/Odinism and a ritualistic killing. 18. Richard Allen has a Sixth Amendment right to present its theory of why the victim's body was placed in its final resting place and why sticks and branches were placed on her body. 19. The defense believes that both Liberty's and Abigail's bodies were planned or placed there because of a desire of Odinists to pose the body and form sticks on the body in an arrangement for reasons only understood by the person or people that murdered the victims. Dr. Perlmutter has testified as to how the sticks would only have meaning to the people who were involved in the murders. 20. Additionally, the defense expert, Dr. Don Perlmutter, indicates that August 1, 2024, hearing that the arrangement of the sticks was not an undoing, as an undoing is typically an attempt by the killer or killers to provide dignity to the victim. Hallmarks of an undoing might be the eyes closed, the mouth of the victims closed. In this case, the girl's mouth and eyes were open, and one victim was displayed naked in an undignified manner. This would be inconsistent with an undoing. The defense should have the opportunity to explain what it believes is an undoing and how the crime scene does not exhibit an undoing. Evidence introduced before and during trial that supports the introduction of third-party suspects Elvis Fields and Brad Holder. 21. On Saturday, October 25, 2024, Lieutenant Holman was asked a question about how many people were involved in the murders of the victims. 22. Lieutenant Holman offered that only one person was involved in the murders. 23. After offering that only one person was involved in the murders, Lieutenant Holman offered the following. As part of his reasoning for believing that only one person was involved in the murders is that based on his training and experience, when more than one person is involved in a crime, there is often a point in time when one of the participants will discuss the crime or reveal the crime, whereas when it is only one person, it's much easier to contain that secret. That was Lieutenant Holman's theory that supported his belief that only one person committed the murders. 24. Since September 18, 2023, the defense has consistently maintained that evidence supports that Elvis Fields was a participant in the murders along with Brad Holder and others. 25. According to Lieutenant Holman's theory, as testified to under oath on October 25, 2024, if it is true that Elvis Fields and Brad Holder were both involved in the murders, then it is likely that one of them will have admitted to being involved in the murders or providing incriminating statements concerning being at the murders. 26. Evidence exists that supports the defense contention that multiple people were involved in the murders and also supports Lieutenant Holman's theory that if multiple people are involved in a crime, that at least one of them will reveal the crime to others. 27. For example, blood spatter expert Pat Cicero testified that it's possible both girls were killed at the same time, which would indicate that more than one person was involved in the crime. 28. Additionally, Pat Cicero also admitted that one explanation for Abby having no blood on her hands is that while her neck was being cut, someone else held her hands down. 29. Law enforcement conducting the investigation into the murders have interviewed one suspect, Elvis Fields, who A, asked inculpating questions to a state trooper, and B, has connections to those who have incriminating evidence on their social media, as well as direct connection to one of the victims. 30. Therefore, evidence exists that multiple people were involved in the murders, rendering all purported alibis as suspect due to the ability for the ringleader to claim an alibi while others are doing his bidding in terms of abducting victims. 31. Brad Holder's first alibi, for example, would allow him to be in Delphi no later than 2:30 p.m., perhaps earlier, while Elvis Fields and others abducted the victims and held them awaiting Holder. 32. In 2018, law enforcement pulled Elvis Fields in for questioning to the Rushville Police Department and at the end of the interview took Elvis's DNA and then explained to Elvis their reason for taking his DNA. 33. At the conclusion of the interview, Trooper Kevin Murphy drove Elvis back to his home. 34. After Trooper Murphy dropped Elvis off at his house, Elvis's home, Elvis walked toward his home and then turned around and approached Kevin Murphy's car. After getting close to the trooper, Murphy's vehicle, Elvis asked Trooper Murphy, "If my spit is found on one of the girls, but I have an explanation for it, would I still be in trouble?" 35. DNA analyst Stacy Bosnowski testified at the end of her cross-examination on October 28, 2024, that a person's spit can be analyzed for DNA. 36. Additionally, evidence exists that supports that Elvis Field was mimicking Brad Holder's, who lived 125 plus miles away and should have no ties to Elvis Fields, Facebook post, or that Brad Holder was mimicking Elvis Fields' Facebook post months before the victims were abducted. 37. Elvis Fields has claimed under oath that Brad Holder was actually mimicking Facebook posts that Elvis Fields had posted. 38. Brad Holder's son Logan was dating Abby Williams, and Brad Holder had evidence that exhibited Holder's knowledge of a crime scene on his social media that no one else should know. Meanwhile, 125 miles away, Elvis Fields, who seemingly would have no reason to know Brad Holder even existed, A, followed Brad Holder on Facebook, mimicking his post, or vice versa, and B, was making statements that inculpate him as to being involved in the murders, including the expectations of the possibility that Elvis's spit might be found on the girls. However, this would not be surprising based on Lieutenant Holman's October 26, 2024 testimony that when multiple people are involved in a crime, someone will ultimately reveal the crime. 39. Additionally, evidence from Brad Holder's social media supported the concept that others assisted him in committing the murders and moving the bodies, as Holder posted a meme on his Facebook page a few days after the girls were murdered, and the theme and words from that meme have become more important due to testimony that has been elicited during the trial. 40. According to blood spatter expert Patrick Cicero, Liberty German's 200-pound body was in fact moved from one location to another. 41. Also, pursuant to blood spatter expert Pat Cicero, there were no drag marks that could be seen on the crime photos. 42. Therefore, evidence supports that Libby's body was moved from one location to another and that two or more people would have been needed to carry the body since no drag marks existed. Certainly, it would be highly unlikely that one man alone could accomplish that task. 43. On February 17, 2017, 3 days after the murders, Brad Holder posted these words on his Facebook page. "Your real ones don't judge you or ask a bunch of questions. They help you move the body and never speak of it again." 44. The fact that Brad Holder had content on his social media that mimics this crime scene, unknown to the public at that time, and additionally that he posted words concerning how real friends would help him move a body, supports the theory that Brad Holder and others were involved in the murders. The fact that Brad Holder has told multiple stories about whether he had ever met Abby Williams, ranging from he never met her to he met her one time to he met her 2 times. 43. On February 17, 2017, 3 days after the murders, Brad Holder posted these words on his Facebook page. Your real ones don't judge you or ask a bunch of questions. They help you move the body and never speak of it again. 44. The fact that Brad Holder had content on his social media that mimics this crime scene, unknown to the public at that time, and additionally that he posted words concerning how real friends would help him move a body, supports the theory that Brad Holder and others were involved in the murders. The fact that Brad Holder has told multiple stories about whether he had ever met Abby Williams, ranging from he never met her to he met her one time to he met her 2 times, along with all the other. 48. At the time of his October 26, 2024 testimony, Lieutenant Holman was fully aware that evidence existed that Elvis Fields of Rushville, Indiana, had a connection with Brad Holder from Logansport, Indiana, and in fact said evidence produced from the law enforcement investigation showed that Brad Holder and Elvis Fields were mimicking one another on Facebook. 49. At the time of his October 26, 2024 testimony, Lieutenant Holman was fully aware that the evidence existed that Brad Holder's son Logan dated Abby Williams. 50. At the time of his October 26, 2024 testimony, Lieutenant Holman was fully aware that Brad Holder had evidence on his social media consistent with signatures left behind at the crime scene, including a mimicked crime scene photograph that looked eerily similar to the way that the bodies were posed on the ground of the woods, and photographs of sticks laid down on the ground and a similar pattern of sticks found on Abby's body in the form of a hand-drawn pattern on the wrist of Brad Holder, among other incriminating items, including a post about real friends helping move bodies. 51. At the time of his testimony, Lieutenant Holman was aware that Odinists, Norse paganists, have been investigated as being involved in the murders. 52. At the time of his testimony, Lieutenant Holman was aware that both Brad Holder and Elvis Fields possessed knives and that Brad Holder used knives as part of his Odinism religion. 53. At the time of his testimony, Lieutenant Holman was aware, or should have been aware, that Brad Holder possessed a .40 caliber handgun. 54. At the time of this testimony, Lieutenant Holman was aware, or should have been aware, that Brad Holder's .40 caliber handgun was never collected, test-fired, or compared to the bullet allegedly found at the crime scene. 55. Therefore, the jury has been misled into believing that law enforcement's only available evidence only supports that only one person was involved in the crime. When Lieutenant Holman's own words on the stand, evidence from the law enforcement investigation and trial testimony from Dr. Core, Pat Cicero, and Lieutenant Jerry Holman would support the defense theory that multiple people were involved in the crimes. This is the true because Elvis Fields has provided inculpatory statements and had a social media connection with Brad Holder, and Lieutenant Holman has indicated that when multiple people are involved in a crime, it is his experience that one of the participants will ultimately reveal the secret of the crime. It is also true because a substantial amount of evidence supports that Brad Holder's social media contain words and images that are consistent with the crime scene and also consistent with creating or showcasing an alibi at 2 a.m. on February 14, 2017, when for the only time in his life he claimed in a Facebook post that he was at the gym. As Holder stated under oath in deposition, Holder's social media is also consequently with others being involved and assisted him in moving the bodies. 56. Richard Allen possesses the Sixth Amendment right to rebut Lieutenant Holman's theory that one man and only one man was involved in these murders, especially when Lieutenant Holman's reasoning for believing that only one man was involved in the murders is debunked by the evidence detailed herein, including Elvis Fields' inculpatory statement that supports Lieutenant Holman's belief that when multiple people are involved in a crime, ultimately one person will reveal the commission of the crime. 57. Additionally, as previously detailed, Richard Allen possesses a Sixth Amendment right to present evidence that those involved in Norse paganism, Odinism, were involved in the murders and posed the girls and placed the sticks on the girls in a certain arrangement for reasons that are very personal to the people that committed the crimes. 58. Defendants files motion currently in part for purposes of a ruling in anticipation of the need to contact our witness if the court reverses its ruling. Respectfully submitted, Andrew Baldwin, Brad Rosie, and Jennifer Auger. And that is an update on the documents that were released today. It looks like the defense is once again trying to get Odinism/Norse paganism brought back into the trial. We'll see you next time on Deb's True Crime Notebook. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring the bell for all notifications. Please leave us a comment and share this with your groups and with your friends.